no more than 10, right? You know what I mean? Like, we have 2 adults and like 5 children. It's really cool. It's really, and just slowly start rolling that. I think that'd be great. But I think there's a lot of kids that get nervous about this, and parents that get nervous about this.
100%, way more than back in the day, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, right before we left, the U.S. government then made Brussels a level 2 terror threat, which is, yeah. You've never seen it? But no, what country or general rules?
Yes,
Belgium, I'm sorry, Belgium,
About the macrame.
correct.
which Brussels is in Belgium. Yeah. So Belgium was a level 2 threat. I'm like, okay, well, what does this mean?
Yeah.
I think it was in response to some of the stuff going on with Iran, like they kind of knew something was going to happen, so they're just worried about different cells and different things. I don't know about that, but I think Belgium is definitely does not have the economic, so if there was a place to hide out over in Europe, I'd probably go to Belgium, because it's noticeably poorer than a lot of the countries around it, so that might be a place where they think different terrorist groups might hide out. I didn't get that for sure. They don't really tell you why, but that would make sense, because we're driving in Luxembourg, these beautiful highways, and all get to Belgium, and because we went to
I have these, but they're afternoon.
Battle of the Bulge Memorial in so,
Right there, the significant.
but driving there, it was like beautiful roads and pots and every pot, the holes and everything else. Like, oh, I can see this is a little different economy here than what we just left.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was a good at that time. So the German offensive to shotgun.
Yep.
The Canada rifle said, "Hey, your rifle."
And everybody knows each other.
It's so funny because after being over there, right? I can't remember the name of the city. I can't believe it. But on my flight home, I went and watched Saving Private Ryan, and when I got home, I watched Battle of the Bulge, 1965 reenactment, and they actually had a place where one of the general comes into the cooks and says, "Get your guns, we're going out there." So that was actually in the original movie that they had.
Yeah, this guy.
I bet you the
And
I don't know if the soccer club has a fund for that. It's pretty cool though.
You guys ready?
daughter, because she's over in the north, and she got to see some of the bunkers, and they're still
All right.
active land.
I will call the meeting to order. Its agenda date, time, and location were properly announced. We do have a couple members missing tonight, but I think that has a lot to do with us changing the schedule, so just bear with. We'll get our schedules realigned, so it'll work out. So we'll start off with the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of May 19th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second? Rose, where's Katie? Second?
I'll second.
Rini? Any corrections, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
I
Opposed?
I abstain. Wasn't being important.
All right, motion carries. Next we have donations.
Yes, so thank you to Mary Lalco that donated about $200 worth of knitting supplies for our new knitting club. And Corey Itzen, another about $215 worth of knitting supplies for a knitting club that will be starting in middle school next year.
Middle school, right?
Yes. Is it Margaret, right? Margaret is an interest in this and found some other students that went, and before you know it, we have a knitting club. How many students are interested? Yeah.
Boy,
Yeah.
We join that? All right, well, great. That's exciting. Next, we have payment of the bills. Is there a motion to approve for May, the amount of $1,138,675.78?
So move.
Chuck, is there a second?
Second.
Brian, any questions?
I know
Discussion?
Patty had some questions earlier. Was there anything else? Did you get everything answered that you had, Rini?
Yes, I got it answered. I mean, I guess a couple things
Mhm.
I thought were interesting is, we do have a fuel tank. So that was filled up, there was a big balance for, I think, Waldo, or a big check amount for them, Waldo Fuel.
Yeah, so just, about a year and a half ago, we went in with TNT and we buy fuel bulk, so we don't buy it from gas stations and then we buy fuel at the price that gas stations pay for it, which helped us save, a good chunk of money. So every time we're up, there's a meter on it, so we have to punch in if it's for the district or if it's for TNT. And we kind of navigate through that stuff, but yeah, it's a great way to save even on the gas station fuel.
And just another item to call out, we talked about the Luxembourg Exchange Project, because those, it's fully funded, but those checks come through the office, including like, the Black Pig, a reimbursement, but
Yes.
that was actually the
That
Luxembourg
was,
project.
that was the Luxembourg project. I was hosting that dinner, paid for it, and then paid for it out of the Luxembourg Exchange. So some of those things are just kind of a pass-through. There's some things with that it's growing so exponentially. There may be a time that the district won't have to be the financial fiduciary for that. We're trying to do that. But give us another year as we're kind of going through and stabilizing. some of
It would be nice to see that kind of separate
that. Right.
from our books.
Yeah, so that's something that has been requested from the donor as well, so it's something we're working on.
Just a quick question about the lawnmower, a new lawnmower we purchased. Was this replacing something or is this an addition to?
We kept the old one, but it needed to be replaced, and it was time to go from there. Patty, right? We didn't trade that one in, I think. The lawnmower, the grasshopper, right? Yeah, we bought a new one, but the other one had seen its life.
Very good.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The cash summary,
I'll just, as an update, I think between Patty and I and everyone else, trying to get all of our DPI things, I feel like every day we're getting new funds, and now it's the $8,000 for Title II and $5,000 for pathways. So just trying to clean up here. We have exactly 1 week before June is done, and Patty is in frantic mode, but she's getting everything done. There we go. Then we get to start all over July 1st again. Yeah.
okay, any questions? Comments from the public? Kim, you didn't receive any? You two don't have anything, okay? Gary?
They're later on.
Okay. Referendum,
You can't walk here and find all the things that are going on. There seems like there's not a part of the district that's not touched right now. And the one thing besides this room, nothing is air conditioned. So thank you for being flexible and meeting here. There's some rooms that are
Thanks,
probably
Kim.
not. Yes, that was Kim's message this morning. Like, it's 90 degrees in some of these rooms. How about we go into here? So this doesn't work so bad, huh? So just be prepared. This may be where we meet in July as well. By the end of August, we should be back and we should be set, and chiller should be ready to go, but I'm not even going to promise that right now. So things are going well. August 23rd is the handover date. They still feel comfortable with that. Rini and Chuck, we went over our budget today. Anything you want to say about just that meeting?
We're on track. Yeah. I mean, some things have come up and we want to make sure we resolve all plumbing issues. And so we had a couple of those.
Yep.
And, change orders.
I feel like we're using our contingency to find other areas to keep making this better. One of the big ones that we talked about today, when different wings are put on a school, it's traditional that you just put a lift station. So our kindergarten wing, because they needed bathrooms, the waste from the toilets go into a big pump or a big pot, and then that pot goes up over everybody's head, and then it gets pumped into the sewer somewhere else. So what you do to reduce costs and new additions, we were able to, one of the biggest things this last month is we're actually gonna be gravity fed, so instead of going into a big pot and then being pumped over and smelling, it will just naturally flow with the rest of our plumbing. So every time we're finding an opportunity to, make it kind of future-proof, we're trying to do that. So yeah. Guys are working hard, I tell you.
What happened to the paint in the lobby and the gym?
Yes, so there were some areas, and Myron, came in, and actually, I'll give credit to Bray. I'm not a mason, right? But if you look at the bricks, how these are laid out, very nice straight lines, everything else. Their masons didn't do as good a job as that is. So they came in and they are fixing all the lines. Some of the blocks had little pieces off of it. So they came back and did all that rework over the last 2 weeks. It's been a pain for us, right? Because that was the one gym we were gonna have available, that we don't. But that is now fixed. They're gonna be painting it, and we'll take a look at what it looks like when it's done painting.
Are there concerns long-term?
Mike and I have talked endlessly about those concerns, right? And we feel like their expertise, Myron's expertise and how they did it, we feel like this will be a long-term, it's more cosmetic, right? It was never anything that was structural. So, yeah, that was one of those unfortunate situations with that, so.
But cosmetic is still important, because that's a big piece of this project. And a gym is such a high traffic area in the lobby. I'm just thinking of kids brushing up against it. If it's just,
It's-
spackle on there.
It's ground all the way down to the concrete, and they missed a step. So as they're putting these big cinder blocks on, right, there was areas that little pieces had come off, that had broken off. They were supposed to, at that time before they painted it, they were supposed to whitewash the wall that they always do, and then you paint over it. They skipped that piece for whatever reason. So they ground everything down to the original concrete, did what they were supposed to do initially. And they've said that we'll have no issues with that coming off. Feel free as you're walking out to see once. I kind of was putting my hand across and stuff. I was worried about it chipping and falling out. It feels like it's in there tight, but I don't know.
Do we need to be concerned about the paint on the whole wall? Like, will they give us an extended warranty on the paint or something?
Once it's painted, I want to see what it looks like, and then we'll have a conversation on that. So
I'm just wondering what it's gonna look like 5 years from now.
that's,
It's everywhere.
yeah, it's that whole area.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And, I'm glad Ray, pointed it out, because it's something that you and I would never have seen otherwise, right? Yeah, I don't know. So, that's,
We can talk about it in the next meeting.
yeah, feel free. I think once it's fixed, we'll talk about what does that mean, and we'll kind of go from there. So, and, we've incurred some cost with renting gym spaces in other areas because we haven't had that available. So I'm just letting them fix it the best they can, and then we will talk about what does this mean down the road.
So it doesn't feel like they've grounded, like the paint is still mostly there, right? And there's like spackle spots.
In some spots, if you leave out these doors, the kitchen spot, if you look overhead, they actually replaced a whole bunch of block. There's an area in the new gym that they replaced the block because it wasn't put in, up to their standards. So,
So the hallway was more filling holes.
filling holes, doing things like that. straightening lines by grinding, doing things like that, so. Yeah,
I thought
I-
they were vandalized.
What's
Yeah,
that?
it looked like somebody set off.
yeah, we weren't vandalized, and I think we found out about, when did we find out about that? When did they, like? Yeah, so it was it, the Monday after school was out, or was it the last Monday of the school year? One of the two, so we just found out about this in early June on it, so. So I'm letting them see what it looks like, and then we'll talk about that, but, yeah, unfortunate.
Any other questions or discussion on the referendum? Okay, building reports.
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
well,
that's-
I was just gonna ask if there's a date set for like open to the public, open house thing.
So,
I know we're gonna do it.
I think we have a date set in October. What was the date we sent? Was it October for our open house when we're going to? October 8th? October 8th. We wanted to give ourselves enough time to make sure we're lived in, that everything's done. If we're gonna do an open house, let's make sure anything that is unforeseen is completed, so we can go from there, so. And are we coordinating that with conferences or something, right? Okay. Okay, so we're trying to coordinate it to be a big event that everybody wants to come to, and they're coming here anyways.
All right, so I'm going to kick off the Strong Classrooms this evening. We had a great completion of the school year. For the elementary, we did a student choice day. So the students got to pick 2 different choices and then rotated to places that were of interest to them. Gina was here and helped out. It was really fun. I think it was helpful for the teachers too, because our classrooms needed to be moved so we could be ready for the construction to happen on the following weekend and week. So it was a really great place for kids to get some learning, do something they're interested in, and still, provide places for them to be. It was really neat. Outside, we were doing s'mores. There were kickball games. You guys were doing chalk and bubbles, and it was just really a fun day for kids. And I know the middle school, they had their triathlon that week. I think that comes a little later in here. We'll talk about that too. For summer curriculum, the staff has really enjoyed being able to come and plan over the summer. So we have them, they pick 2 days, and they're coming in working with our instructional coaches and designing their units for the beginning of the year. So it takes away that pressure at the beginning of those first days of August, and it allows them some time to really refine what they want to be doing in the classroom. So that's exciting as well. Yeah.
Traditional schools meet 4 days before school starts, and I tell you, I send the we tried and we listed, right, it's to be a lot. Which to listen, but they're normally making the classroom, teaching kids next week. So remember, we have 2 days now in August, and then we have the staff come in June or July or so, 2 days. And I think we've gotten so much more horsepower out of it. Summer, noise pollution, issues like that. I don't want to worry about it until the end of August, so we're saying we're thinking about it. Yeah, starting because of referendum, but I think we're thinking really long.
Is that part of the contractual work here?
It is, yeah. So they really love it. And then there's that time right before school starts to get things organized in the classroom and start thinking about kids and what our next steps will be. We have our literacy program. This is again part of Act 20 for our students that need extra help. They encourage school districts or require school districts to have a summer reading program. I cannot take any credit for this. This was Jamie Utek's vision. She was part of this at I believe it was Cardinal Stritch. They had a reading and tutoring center there, and she's like, let's give it a try. So we have 46 students enrolled in our summer literacy program. They come for an hour either Monday and Wednesday or an hour in the afternoon on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We made it flexible for parents. And they get small group work. They're working on reading, comprehension, and some groups are working on handwriting as well to kind of help get their information across. Pieces of the curriculum then go home with the students so parents can continue to work on it at home if they like. And I know Gina dropped off a grandson, I think, for that too. She's like, I get to see her all the time. So that's been really fun. And you really see those parents and get to know them. And some kids are biking there too. Does he? Oh, good. Right? Yeah. Awesome. And then the next part is a presentation about NextPath. This is a data warehouse and a front-facing information center that we are going to be having for families. Our teachers started kind of dabbling in it in the elementary last year. We needed a way to get information out to families quickly based on the Ames Web Screener. So this program had the ability to do that. And we can go to the next slide. So I'm going to show you like the 10,000 foot view and then kind of go down from there. So what I have up in front of you is our oral reading fluency scores. Now remember that first screener in fall, NextPath was able to grab from FastBridge, but remember some Edmentum pieces, but this was different than the Ames Web that we had in the middle of the year and the end of the year. And now moving forward, we will always have Ames Web. So you can see that it starts with our at-risk and then it gradually increases. The one that you might have a question about, I think second grade is our one down to the bottom, where that one had less students. And again, I think this is some of that different screener pieces, but now as we're implementing all Ames Web, you will see growth there too. So then we can go to the next slide. Yes. Oh yeah. Yep. I'll go up there. Hi. Yep. So this is really cool. It can even get down to gender, ethnicity. It can show us all things. So right now it has, oh, sorry. I won't touch it, I promise. So this is just oral reading fluency. It will be able to report out on math, on science, and all of anything it pulls from an assessment, it can make a spreadsheet for us. So here we have by measure, fall, winter, spring. This is our entire school. So our at risk, it's 75.3, 74.1, and then 68.2. Those students and this is proficient and advanced. So this is where we want to keep moving the pendulum this way. Then you can see here, this is just the elementary school. And now, to be fair, a middle school wasn't using Ames Web. They're not in this data yet. But then you can see we had an increase here, moving over to proficient and advanced. And then here it's by grade. So this is first grade. This is our second grade, third grade. I just pulled this screenshot because it started to get, like you saw, really small. So I thought, let's just keep it here. But yeah, there's more to this table. And again, I was trying to be thoughtful about, confidentiality and those things too.
So from the school days, this allows us to see, when we talk about oral reading fluency, how are we doing as a school, how are we doing as a grade, and we'll talk about how we're doing for students. So this is the first time that we're taking all the different data pieces that are out there. Instead of looking at things individually, we can put it into one data warehouse where we can actually see a correlation. This allows us to have conversations around data, have teachers make decisions around data, and do the things that we can talk about at the school level, at the grade level, where we produce, and now parents, so parents can actually see how their kids are looking.
Yeah, they're even going to have it as like a dashboard on your phone. Well, you'll be able to know immediately how they did on Ames Web, what interventions they're in. You know, as a school, we have to decide like what we want to kind of encourage them to see, and that'll be more conversations, but it's good stuff. Not great, yeah. Absolutely, yes. Exactly. Yeah, and so I think we're seeing that. I'm hoping that we'll see even more gains this year, because the teachers are feeling really comfortable with the curriculum, and we're, our goal for the building this year is to really dive into interventions, because we know we can get the most bang for our buck, like addressing the skills that the students need help in and helping move them forward. Because here's an example, if they can't decode the word, they're not going to read fluently. So just figuring out what skill is lagging and then helping them to achieve that skill and then move the pendulum. So, all right, Kim, I'm ready. So then this, yeah. Oh, yeah, we're gonna go back. That's cool. Okay. Absolutely. Yes. So those happen in our PLC meetings. What we'll do is we'll bring up the data here, but we'll also have classroom data. So you'll be talking about, okay, these students are struggling in oral reading fluency. What is going on there? Is it the decoding? Is it they don't know blends of words? And so then we try to diagnose that there. And then that's when we do it during our advantage time. We break into small groups and help those students get the support they need. Anyone below the 25th percentile is in our title programs, or they might also be a special ed student, so they're getting support from special ed as well. And we've tightened those programs up a little bit this year with special ed and title. They're all using the same resource so that we can see, they can flow fluidly in between those two things. So, but great question. This is our individual student data. So their names would have been over here, and I just pulled those out. But then you can see their risk level, their accuracy, and then for winter, we have our winter risk level, our growth, accuracy. And then what's really interesting is that you'll have students that have really high accuracy, but their growth is not. So they're still, you can see here that they're still really working at learning to decode words and sound them out. So that's where we start to say, okay, this guy right here, this little fella, we're going to need to look at an intervention for them and how can we can support them better. So any questions about this one? It's really fascinating and I'm so excited. I love data. I do. A parent, a profile. Okay, we're ready, Kim. Yep. Okay, so this, I kind of took any material off of here that would have our confidentiality piece. On this, you can see their attendance. You'll see their grades for elementary. Then we go over here. This is a fourth grader. So there we're using FastBridge to progress monitor them a little bit so we can see that they're still working on their proficiency there. And then we can see the risk level or where they are. This is that exact path that we've talked about. That was used to be our universal screener, but we're switching to Ames Web. I want you to notice here, like, this student would be a student that we'd be worried about for at risk for behavior. And so I'm going to show you that intervention next. And then here we have notes. So this would have shown like, okay, they're in a intervention for behavior already, and here's how we're going to support them. And so then Kim, if you want to go to that next one. This shows that our student was on a check-in and check-out, and I just started to pilot, because we'd been doing check-in and check-out through Infinite Campus, so we started to put it into NextPath, and I just did one side of this, but you can look into periods too where it would shift like, okay, they're doing really well in science, but when they go to reading, they're really struggling. So what's happening in reading that student is having a hard time, and how can we support them? Is it the reading piece of it, or is there something else that's triggering them in that classroom that we need to support them on? So it's just super comprehensive, and it helps us just serve our students and our community better because we can really diagnose and get to the bottom of things.
comprehensive, but it's about as transparent as you can get about student learning to parents. We spend so much time talking about PLC, getting our standards aligned, getting those things, all that brought us to a point that now we can tell our parents, your son or daughter is excelling, they're proficient, they're advancing in this learning outcome, or they're not, or their behavior. As we roll this out, as all this data goes into here, it's a way for the adults in the school to plan their day and make sure that we're helping kids. But it's also, every parent will know what path they are. And that's really exciting thing to think about. There's only a few districts around that are at this level because of what they've done pre-work before this came out. And this will be something that was available for all kids.
Yeah.
Hang tight. It's still being developed. Kim's been putting a lot of time into the data. Susan, Travis, like everybody was just trying to get this. But we wanted to show you.
I think you started with this line saying something about behavior.
So, yeah, can we? Sure. So, Kim, can you go back one slide? This shows like major incidents through our BLT and our PBIS teams. We've decided like these are incidents that the student would be in the principal's office for. So I'm calling home or those type of things. The minors, we had started to do most of those through like a Google form, but we're going to move to NextPath this year because when a teacher clicks on a minor, they can say, oh, they are, I'm trying to think of what a minor would be, leaving the classroom without asking the teacher. So we would talk like, okay, why is that happening in this situation? So once we get to a place where a student has more than 3 of these incidents, we now think about, okay, they might need some support. And what does that look like? Well, one of the ways you can add support is through adding another trusted adult to their group of adults in the building. So they go into what we call a check-in and check-out, and then they get a chance to check in with them during their day. They set a goal of like, I'm not going to walk out of the room without asking. And how many times did I do that, and did I meet my goal? And that's where, if you can go to the next slide, Kim, again, like 80% is where we're hoping they'll get. So every class has its own 0, 1, 2. And if we see them, you know, trending, and if they trend, like let's say this friend continued to trend upward, we would exit them from the program because then they have met their goal and they no longer need to be in it.
Every one of those dates that are how that student did to meet this goal of getting efficiency, as you can see. This little guy had a couple positive days, but he's been kind of right at like 80%, a couple days underneath 80, a couple days significantly under. So now teams can look at this and say, okay, well, check and check out. Isn't enough. What's the next thing?
Yeah. So currently, we print reports out for them that they can have them. This is not live yet, but yeah, we have given those type of reports to parents. They come up really helpful in like if we're having a functional behavioral assessment where we're talking about, okay, we seem to be not supporting in the right way. What do we need to do? What are our next steps? So I'm like, let's look at the data. Where is it showing us that those next steps need to be? So it's all in progress, but wanted to kind of get you. Yeah, Chuck.
This might get too far into the weeds, but
Okay.
how often is this data entered? Is this like entered daily?
For this intervention, it would be entered daily.
Daily, okay, by the teacher.
Actually, it's going to be entered by our guidance counselor. I was doing it at the end just to kind of give us a model to see what the next steps would be.
So how many students are you entering this data for on a given day?
Well, there's about 25 that I would say that we're in our check-in and check-out program.
Okay.
Because that's like our first tier of intervention. The next one, we would add maybe a peer mentor and with the help of the middle school, we used a lot of mentors to, again, another layer of support to know that we care about them and we want to see them succeed. Sometimes the next tier will be path counseling, because that's another place we have here. Sometimes we'll do small groups. Like if they're having trouble with relationship building, they'll do like a small group. That's another intervention. And Tracy, the psych, myself and Bonnie meet once a week to look at where they're trending and if everybody's doing okay.
So you review this weekly?
Yep. We're like, okay, they can be
Even
dismissed.
Historically, before we use data, it would be like, it seems like, the great one is, you walk by a lunchroom, boy, the lunchroom is loud, we should do something about that. And it was more gut reactions to student behavior instead of using data to really make good decisions on what we need to do. This allows us, once we have a student that we've identified as getting 2 majors, right, or 4 minors, they get a check and check out. Now we get a daily progress report on how their behavior is, be able to communicate that. So this is part of the database that we're really trying to drive our decisions with data. It's taken us, I won't even tell you how, when we found NextPath, we're so elated on this because this is what we're looking for. And we've been looking for a few years to pull our systems together in one place.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. I think it's Susan's turn now. Yep.
Snapshot of order. This is something that people really look at.
Okay, no, just waiting. So under strong culture, we just wanted to do a shout out for our end of the year staff recognitions and celebrations. That's a time that after the students leave on the last day of school, the staff comes together just to celebrate teachers that have been teaching in the district for 10 plus years, recognizing them, but also anyone retiring. And so we had 3 retirees, Lisa, Trisha, and Bob. So we wanted to take some time to recognize them as well. And it was really a great time. And thank you to Tommy's Pizzeria for the pizzas and just the camaraderie. So summer work for PBIS and BLT, as Becky had talked about, where our teachers are doing professional development, our leadership teams at each of the levels are coming together and doing the planning and preparation for next school year already as well. So tomorrow is elementary, middle school, and high school have already met. High school will meet again in July to finish up our planning with that.
All right, in our strong community connections, the 4 kids, we did music in the park on June 12th. We had lots of volunteers. It was a very cold night, which was kind of interesting, but still a lot of people were out and very successful. They told me the amount they made, but I don't remember exactly what it was. We're also starting our parent advisory committee. And I want to give a shout out to Bobby Jo Pluth. She was organizing the volunteers for kids music in the park for the 4 kids, and she's also been such a great asset to us and an advocate as a parent. She mentioned, she's like, I'd love to help build more connection between parents and admin and teachers at the elementary school level. So her and Cece Dom were like, could we create like a parent advisory committee? So we asked for nominations. We have like 18 friends that were nominated, so we're going to meet on August. I don't know the date off the top of my head, but just to talk through it and then talk about what our mission and vision is for that group and kind of go from there. But it's all about building that community and that connection to our classrooms. And then I'm going to turn it over to Susan.
And then last, just wanted to thank the Village of Random Lake and the Random Lake EMTs for coordinating with us for the annual triathlon. While it was a rainy day, it was still a fun day. And I think the kids did a great job and really had a good time, even despite the weather. Lastly, I want to end with student acknowledgements. So we have our spring sports all conference. So we have our softball all conference where we have first team all conference unanimous vote Madeline, as well as first team all conference for Olivia and Danica. Second team all conference Layla, Ava, and Lily. So shout out to all of the girls for a wonderful softball season. Baseball all conference. We had first team all conference pitching and in fielding, and that was Decker. And then first team all conference Chase and Reed. Second team all conference Peyton and Logan, and then 2 honorable mentions, Jeffrey and Griffin. And well done to the baseball players. And then girls soccer, they were the sectional winners, and at this time they were state bound, but they have played at state, did a phenomenal job. And the semifinals game was really, it came down to double overtime, and then they did a shootout. And so Random Lake came out on top on the semifinals. And then state, the championship game was Saturday. Renee was there. It was hot as blazes. I had to take a car, break just to get some air conditioning, but they played hard. They fought hard. While they came in second, 2-0, it really was a phenomenal season. So well done to the girls. Bezonia was second team all conference, and Rebecca was honorable mention. And then track, we had one student that made it into state, and that was Peyton, and he went to state in the 300 hurdles. I believe he placed 7th, if I'm not mistaken. So well done to all of our students in the spring sports.
So I had a question about, the strong community connections. A couple meetings ago, membership from the community come and express some concern about
Yep.
the route and were there any issues at all?
0 issues. Yep, and I was on the one particular corner. I manned that table, and I had it off to the side so that way there was no obstruction to any kind of traffic. And also Austin used different kind of cones so that way cars could drive right over top of them. They were just the little flat ones, so they didn't need to, go around or stop to move them or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Yep.
We are considering the possibility of requiring a permit next year would be a very minimal kind of thing. Just thinking about putting that into a permit.
Oh, sure.
So you're aware of it.
Okay. Yep.
We don't have issues.
Yep. No, sounds good. Thank you for making me aware.
We did not have any committee meetings for the board. So then, we have, Act 12 reporting.
Yeah, so actually you can give it to Terry. You're doing such a good job with these things.
I know.
You don't even understand that. Go ahead, you have to go ahead. There's new requirements that we need to, all schools need to report any police infractions that happen at this address. So we thought this would be a good time for you guys to see Gary again, end of the year kind of wrap up, and ask some questions about the CRO position. But I asked Gary to just talk a little bit about what infractions we'll be reporting to
State.
DOJ, right?
Yep. So through the course of the year, we had 8 referrals or citations issued. And that doesn't even mean it was 8 students. I think it was maybe 5, because some were repeat. So out of the 8, 5 were for vapes. So we're not talking life-breaking stuff here. 3 of the vapes were THC or marijuana type vapes. 1 theft and 2 disorderly conducts. And one of those disorderly conducts wasn't even a student. It was a parent that came to school and kind of got on one of our teachers. So I called the sheriff's department because that was disorderly. And even at that time, it didn't sound like they were going to even make an arrest. But now we just found out about this requirement. I kind of did it at the end of the year, just running our address, seeing the citations and the arrests and referrals made for our address. And apparently that parent was issued a citation for disorderly conduct. So I would say very good as far as I'm concerned. If there's any question, I can kind of fill in a little more if there's anything you want to know. But like I said, it's 5 vapes, 3 of them THC, 2 disorderly conducts, and 1 theft. they're all over. I mean, between Susan and Travis and other kids reporting on other kids.
Is the vaping a bathroom issue, or were you seeing the vaping?
Yeah. So. So- No, no. Second, I believe it's the second one we refer, called. Yeah. If it's a THC vape, that automatically gets reported because it's under the drugs. If it's a regular vape, there's school discipline. And then the second vape, I contact the sheriff to issue a citation. And then, there's more school discipline. And, Chuck, you're on the village board, right? I know when they had the THC one, I told the sheriff to write village ordinance because then the village gets some money instead of the county. And he did, but then he came by and I don't know if he reported it to the village or not. One of the THC ones, I said, well, issue village tobacco. And he came back, says, your village doesn't have a tobacco ordinance. And I'm like, all these years of the 70s and the 80s and people smoking cigarettes, there's no, so that's only what I heard from him, but he said he reported it to the village board or someone down at Village Hall. I'm like, yeah, we need to, because if they're going to come here and make a citation or whatever, I think the village should get, the money out of it instead of the county. So, yeah, but if you want to look at it, he said he mentioned it to somebody, but we had a good drugs one because he was surprised. He goes, your drugs ordinance is like $150 more than the county ordinance. And I'm like, well, Ram Village. So, is that storm coming? So. Anything else? Well, we have one where we're putting the temporary daycare, and we've had the door guys look at it because they're set electronically now. And even though it's red and it's supposed to be locked, it isn't grabbing right. And then there's time when it's green.
Or like the last time, some of the workers manually unlocked it and didn't lock it when they left. And so we ran into that this last time.
Because when this construction's done, my goal is not to get any more of those little sheriff cards that say you got an open door,
That would be a happy day.
It would. So I found Todd's box and there's guys in there that are retired already from through the years of finding open doors, but so. Is that it? Well, when the roof starts moving.
Yeah.
There's a storm there that we're under a severe thunderstorm.
Is there warning now?
We have a storm.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for coming. Carrie, you don't have to stick around for the,
Yeah, you can just leave in the storm. Enjoy.
yeah. Well, you can stick if you want. Hey, did you get that video from that other? Okay.
Give me the name and I'm gonna look at it.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Okay, approval of insurance changes. This is, from the budget committee. Last, right?
Yes.
These are
So
final?
these are final numbers. We are so fortunate to be doing 6.47 instead of, what was the first number we had? 40% increase? So thank you to our friends at, I can't think Dan Mangovan. Horton Group. We worked as a committee together. We're always very transparent with this, so we brought our insurance committee together. We made the decision as a group that this was the right way to go. So yeah, this is a pretty easy yes.
All right, is there a motion to approve the change?
So moved.
Chuck, is there a second? Katie, any questions or discussion?
I just wanted to understand, so the deductible's going up, and are we helping out with that somehow?
Yes.
through health savings, or?
So our deductible 2 years ago was 3,500 and 7,000. But we deferred, let's say at 7,000, family's got a $3,000 HRA.
It's just individual and then family?
Yeah, so if you're an individual, your deductible is 3,300, but the district gives you $1,500 back that you can use towards your deductible, or you can save in towards a retirement. Last year, we had a really good renewal, so we dropped our, deductible, but we also dropped our HRA. So now we're going back up. The nice thing we can say is we're actually going up to a number less than was 2 years ago. And we're taking our HRA but reimbursing as much as we did 2 years ago. So we're still under where we were 2 years ago. It's just unfortunate. We finally had a nice trend. We dropped it down to a $4,000 deductible. We had to be one of the best around. We were able to afford it. And then this year was a year that we had nearly a 200% experience in insurance. It's part of being a small district, right? A couple babies, a couple hips, a couple knees, and before you know it, you're not paying in enough in this world that we have healthcare. So, fortunately, we have a good process with our teachers, with our staff. We make sure they know what's happening, so we're all on the same page with this. So,
This is a change to a new carrier?
yeah.
And were there teachers and staff on the insurance committee, like that?
Yeah, so we have teachers, staff. I'm excited about this change, and, I'm rainbows and unicorns about everything. But this one's interesting because it's a Medicare referenced insurance company. And just to kind of put it in layman's terms as much as possible, if you have Medicare and you go and get a knee replacement, the government will only give the hospital $35,000, okay? But if I go get a knee replacement with the insurance we have right now, that my insurance would pay somewhere up to $50,000 for that same knee replacement. So who we're switching to is a company that says, why is one knee $35,000 and another knee $50,000? So they actually have people that negotiate and say, you can do a knee replacement for $35,000 for the government, we'll give you $42,000. And they have prearranged pricing with Aurora on every kind of procedure you could have done. So we're predominantly under Aurora. We have some other staff that aren't under Aurora, but they are covered. This isn't a narrow network. People can still see their providers. So I feel like we have another new product that's out there. But this one's kind of interesting because they're actually referencing a number that's out there for every procedure possible and then negotiating from there. So stay tuned. We'll see how this year goes, but we're switching again as of July 1st.
Do we feel we're pretty competitive with surrounding districts?
Yeah.
As far as what we're paying
I would say
our costs?
what we're paying and everything else, I would say that we are probably one of the better districts in what we have for our staff, what they pay towards it. As we were having some good renewals, we allowed the staff to put that onto their salaries. So as we talk to new staff, or we talk to staff now, what is a family plan a month? How much do our staff pay for a family plan a month? Well, $124 a month for a family plan. So, yeah,
That's reasonable.
it is reasonable. We kick in a whole bunch. Yeah. What do we kick in? What does a family plan cost the district for a year? And I would say we're in the comparable of what the other districts, we might be a little higher than some of the other local districts with that, so.
For the minutes, who made the motion and who seconded?
I think I seconded it.
What was it?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Well, Amy's not here.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the approval is needed to continue the 660301 virtual charter school with Keel. Is there a motion to continue that agreement?
Someone,
Katie, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Chuck, any questions or discussion?
it says no students last year, have we ever had students that actually took advantage of it?
We've had a student for a couple months, right, that did this. We have a potential student coming up this next year that may be using it, so this is a really nice, yeah, you know, Susan, it's just kind of a nice, option to have if needed, right?
Does it cost us anything?
So we get to keep the student enrollment, so this is one that we get to keep the student enrollment, and then we pay the virtual school an X amount, so actually in some ways, we would, if a student were to stay here and go to this virtual school, we would make more money than if, they were to go directly there. So it's with open enrollment laws and things like this, there's a couple benefits to doing it this way,
So we only pay if the student goes.
yes. Yeah.
Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have, school fees. Mike, are you gonna speak to that at all, or?
I can say, you know, for the meals, for the food service, this year we ran a little bit in the red. So we are trying to do this to just get us back in the black. There's other mitigating circumstances to this with the referendum and some other things, so we feel like this is similar to what other districts are paying and helps, Amy keep, that group doing what we need to. Okay, thank you.
This part all says we're staying the same, right?
So
The other stuff, the non-food stuff?
so is that accurate, Kim, that, it's basically staying the same, the general?
Yes, the rest of the fees so far, the only thing that I'm aware of is the
Food service, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve? Katie, is there a second?
Second, Brian.
Brian, any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the 2025-26 WIA membership renewal. Is there a motion to approve?
So,
Brian, is there a second?
I'll second.
Chuck, any questions or discussion?
Is there ever any conversation among superintendents or anything about not being in WIA? Like, they make some
Yeah.
stupid decisions,
Yeah.
and like, maybe if some of the schools rebelled against it, I mean, I don't know that we need to be the leader in that, but
You know, there was a, competitor to the WIA about 15 years ago, and just never takes off, right? Like, nobody wants a state championship in the WNLL, right? They won in the WIA, so. Yeah, I know the Madison's been trying to put some, legislation out there that they have to open their books and be more transparent like a public school. So I think we're represented by other schools, right? It's run by a board. It just, I don't know, sometimes I think everyone could share those frustrations.
Is
So,
it all like Division I schools on that board? Are there any small?
no, they have small school, medium school, private schools, so they have a cross representation
Do
of
they
it.
have more people that are in private schools on the board?
I would say it's a good cross section. I
they
just-
lost a couple lawsuits, right? Like, maybe they'll start being more reasonable.
Yeah, you know what? I think they're afraid of their own shadow of making too many choices on some things. Because every time they make a decision, they're in litigation one way or the other. So I think they're in a tight spot, right? You know, and it's just one of those things. People care more about sports than they do academics. So everyone has an opinion, and you know, I will say for the state tournament with soccer, we got to see it firsthand. I thought they did a nice job, right? You know, those things went well. During COVID, I thought they did nothing but just throw it at the schools and weren't willing to make any decision on that. So they have their good and their bad, right? Just like any organization. So
What's
just
that
don't have
cost
any
of that?
like boss, right? So it's frustrating because like, I don't have anybody to answer. to.
Yeah.
Well, it's-
Right. They do have a board, but it's such a collective voice that, yeah. What did, Patty, do we know what our annual cost is for WIA? It's under 10, right? Is it like 5 to 6? WIA for the, registrate every year, what is the cost for WIA? It's a few thousand for our size. Yeah, look it up once and we'll get it to you.
Not a big deal, it's not significant.
Yeah, no,
Just need to do practice.
yeah, no, good place for it.
Any other questions, gripes, frustrations? No, we won't go there because we all have those.
Oh, man.
We'll be here all night.
All those in favor, please say aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have professional staff resignations. Is there a motion to accept with thanks for their years of service? We have Tricia with 14 years in the middle school, Martina in the high school English teacher for 1 year, and Jenna in the elementary music.
I motion that we accept them all.
All right. Chuck and Katie? Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion carries. Then we have new professional staff for elementary music. Jennifer, anybody want to take a stab at that?
Lucan House.
Lucan House, okay. Is there a motion to approve? Katie, is there a second?
second.
Brian, any questions, discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion carries. Then we have notification of supports or salaried staff resignations. We have Bethany from the elementary administration, administrative assistant for 2 years, and Carol Young in food service for 1 year. Those are just notifications. And then the next two items, the new support staff and new salaried staff, we don't have any. So just placeholding, all right. And that takes us to informational items.
Just real quick, Booster Club, we're having some preliminary conversations. It's getting harder and harder for parents. We have a bunch of some wonderful Booster Club presidents and executive that their sons and daughters are graduating. So we're looking at some creative ways of trying to help the Booster Club keep going. We're looking at possibility youth apprenticeship, like a student help run organization, trying to do some things to keep Booster Club alive. And going from there. So, as you're hearing some stuff, I just wanted to let you know we're trying to be creative, to make sure this is a very important component to the things we do. Is there a way the school can take on a little bit of this to let our parents make the decisions? But some of that day-to-day operations could be a student, because when it comes down to it, Booster Club is a business, right? So if we have a youth apprentice that wants to do this kind of work, it's something that we could give them a really good, or a good opportunity. So stay tuned. Nothing is for sure yet, but just want to let you know. Luxembourg update, just got back last week. Fantastic visit. Our students, our staff over there had a fantastic, weather was great. I think we had 1 day of a little bit of rain. Conversations, the host families were fantastic. You know, one of the things, you know, there's so many things, but having the conversations, our students with their students, with their students. I had an opportunity, I was telling some of you, to present to one of our partner schools that's in Germany, but it's half Luxembourg, half German. And one of the questions the students asked me about the US is, you know, why is the politics so screwed up right now? You know, what's going on there? And it was kind of great because I'd spent the first 3 days we were in London, and then we went over to Luxembourg for 8 days. And I kind of joked with these high school, they're juniors and seniors, right? I'm like, I'll be honest with you, I just spent the last 3 days in London. And I will tell you, after watching the BBC for the last 3 days, I'm not sure I want to go back to the US. if you look at the US through the eyes of what some of these news outlets are sharing, I can see where people get a negative connotation of some of the things that are happening here. And one of their students came back, and I thought this was really astute. He came back and said, you know, it seems like from our visit, because he had been over here this spring, it seems like over in Europe, you know, Luxembourg is different than Germany, than Brussels, that states are more independent and the federal government stuff doesn't impact you as much. It's more of the state piece. And I like, in a lot of cases, you come talk to our students and their students, we see there's a lot more in common. So it's kind of great for these conversations to happen, and some of these stereotypes that happen from these big pieces can be broken down through conversation. So to me, that was one of those why you do this and why you see and find out that people across the big pond are very similar to us. So the nice thing is they all speak English over there, so it made it pretty easy there. And then legislative updates, I just wanted to throw it out there. The state budget is not going to be easy. The last thing I heard today was there's some now in Madison that are saying, you know what, let's not even do a new budget. Let's just keep the budget we have for the next 2 years. If that happens, it will be hugely detrimental. It will put us in a position of possibly not being able to afford raises, trying to do some things. We're good for next year, but as you look at the cost of everything increasing, that the state is trying to negotiate and not give an increase to schools is just, it's unfathomable. I think the best thing this board can do, if you look at it, 15 years ago, the state of Wisconsin was one of the top 10 states in the nation for funding public education. Last year, we're in the bottom half now. So, and we keep dropping. So, as they keep funding charter schools and or voucher schools, they seem to want to do it off of the back of public education. So I do think there's some behind door negotiations that are going on with decoupling and some other things that people are keeping close to the chest. So I do have some optimism that we will see a budget that allows us to give raises and will be appropriate, but just want to, it's always good to prepare for the worst and hope for the best, right? So, yeah.
Okay. We do have a closed session on the agenda. Is there a motion to go into closed session as permitted under Wisconsin State Statutes, Chapter 19, Section 1985, 1C, to discuss contract negotiations, and we will remain in closed session to discuss a personnel matter. Katie, is there a second? I mean, Rini, is there a second? That's Katie? Okay. This requires a roll call vote. Brian?
Yes.
Katie? I vote yes. Chuck? Rini? Yes. All right, we are in closed session. Thank you for coming out tonight. We will not be taking any action.